Hello, I'm Rob Havard and this is Call to the Land. Today on the episode we've got a fantastic guest, Sophie Gregory. Hi Sophie.
Thanks so much for having me, Rob.
No problem, yeah, thanks for coming up. As ever, we'd love you, if you can, to follow us on all the socials, on Instagram. Also check out the YouTube channel. We've just started putting all the videos up on there. So yeah, check that out if you want to watch the episodes as well. You can also watch video on Spotify. Any comments, likes, subscribes, shares you can do really helps us. So if you could do that for us, that's absolutely brilliant. But we'll get right into it. Sophie's just been telling me how much she hates the Prime Minister. So
not the new one. I've got to give the new one a bit of a chance, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe the party is the problem. I've got high hopes for the new one.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting.
Can't be much worse.
I've given up having faith in politicians or like hope.
No.
Because it just doesn't happen, does it? So,
no, I think you just have to farm in the way you want to farm.
Yeah.
And then if there's some sort of benefit that comes from it, then great. But if not, just keep going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sorry for saying that.
It's fine.
It's too tempting. She's just been telling me how you can't say that. So yeah, if we dive straight into it, what'd be great just to have a little bit of background and so just thinking about how you got into the farming and all of that and how you started out. But like you've travelled quite a lot. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up near Bath, so somewhere called Shit and Smell It is how we know it. Shout out to Mallet, for anyone who doesn't know. It's about half an hour outside of Bath. Yeah. Not a very desirable place. It had a jail in it at one point that's now open to the public. Wow. I think they do overnight tours there and things. It's very it's an interesting place.
If you drink too much at the local pub, yeah.
Well, exactly, straight in there. But it's a cider heavy area. They grow a lot of cider, make a lot of cider down there. Thatcher's home, just near there.
Yeah. Okay.
So an interesting place. Grew up, went to school at the local primary, then to a prep school, and then to boarding school in Bruton. So about an hour away from home. And then I met Tom, my husband, who is from a farming background, but his family weren't farming at the time. I met them at Glastonbury Festival, which is very near Shepton Mallet in Glastonbury. So that was when I was about 16, 17.
Yeah.
And then Tom said when I met him that he wanted to go back dairy farming because his dad had sold the cows when he was 10, and I was like, I don't know anything about dairy farming. I'd had horses growing up. My mum was a vet. I, had hedgehogs in the house, things like that.
Large animal vet?
She was a small at that point, but she'd been in a mixed practice. So a lot of practices used to be mixed for a long time. And then as things commercialised, they sort of moved away to sort of small and large practices. So you do get some mixed ones still, but it's quite uncommon now. So she was, doing small at that time, but we'd grown up with her being on call.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about farming, to be honest.
Okay.
Even the horse that I was sort of borrowing wasn't on a farm. It was up at a livery yard that we sort of begged and borrowed to share with someone else. So I didn't know anything about farming. So I thought it was a mad idea. Obviously I was like 16, 17, no sort of future plans to meet someone. And then I fell pregnant when I was 17, 18 and with Tom. And so had a baby very young. So that probably sort of pushed us together a bit more, future plan. So that's Harry. He's now 17, just learning to drive, which is quite terrifying. I suppose Tom was foot trimming, which for anyone listening who doesn't know what foot trimming is basically a farrier for cows. His mum really didn't want him to go farming, so pushed him into anything but farming. He did engineering at college, didn't finish it, didn't want to do it, but just wanted to earn. So we started rearing calves when we were probably 18, 19 feel. So high welfare, RSPCA, we're taking bull calves from a dairy farmer who was shut down with TB and then rearing them to 9 months old and selling them to slaughter. Not particularly profitable, but got us in the door. We were living in, Tom's cousin had a big bit of land that came with a rental, and he didn't want to live in it. It was sort of converted piggery.
So you're doing all this with a little one as well?
Exactly, yeah. And I also started training as an accountant when Harry was 6 weeks old, because I was determined. I would have gone to university, but I didn't think it was possible with Harry. So I went, a day a week to college to do my accountancy alongside. So we that's how we started out. How we got to being dairy farmers. I think we went for about 3 different farms. This third one, we were already in partnership with a guy called Mike Tizard, who we were rearing the veal for. Yeah. So we sort of worked out that he'd done quite well out of dairy farming. He was our neighbour. Yeah. He already had 4 or 5 dairy farms, all organic. And so we thought, what is his problem? You know, what problem has he got that we can solve? And TB was a big problem, and a home at that point for Frisian bull calves was a big problem. They weren't worth anything. You just couldn't give them away. Very different story to today. And it was before sex semen. So people, it was 50-50 chance when cows were calving. So we had isolation units, which meant that we could have these TB calves. Right. And we went into partnership with him, who then became our business partner for the dairy. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, just cracking on and starting, if you say it doesn't necessarily pay, but as a kind of new entrants or first generation, that's something often I see is people kind of waiting for everything to line up with the perfect business. But it just doesn't work like that. You just have to start and then opportunities come, I think, would you say? Or absolutely. My big things are I think especially if you're looking for a business partner, I think having some skin in the game and some stock from the start as soon as you can, because not only does it show you're pretty serious if you've got your own animals, but it teaches you to look after them, if anything. All the regulations, like the passport, the things you don't actually realise you have to do, like passports, deal with RPA back then, blocks of land, keeping landlords happy, all of those things you learn whether you've got sort of 5 animals or 500 animals. So getting stock as soon as possible is pretty key, I think, to getting going. No, brilliant. And then so from that you transition from that to dairy, or how does that? So we were pretty honest with Mike that we always wanted to do dairy farming, and this farm came up, which was an hour from where we lived. It's where we live now. We went to Mike and said, what about going share farming, which is basically where you have 2 business partners and you own a percentage share of the business depending on who has more financial access or experience, and a difference in every different business. It's not very common in the UK, very common in New Zealand. I think we're seeing more and more of it in the UK now as generational change, things like that. But we approached Mike, and Mike was like, absolutely no way, I'm not interested. It's not my normal model. He'd always had people, contract milkers, who were paid per litre of milk in the tank, and then they paid their own teams. And that would be like a contract farming agreement rather than a share farm? Slightly different. So with dairy, and there's not many people doing this nowadays, but basically that person is then in charge of their own team, and out of that money they get paid from the milk, they pay their staff, but they don't own any of the cows. They don't own anything normally than a quad bike, or, and they live in the house, but it's just a way to incentivise them to put milk in the tank, because obviously the more milk they put in the tank, the more they make, and the more they have to pay a team, or they have the flexibility to be like, well, actually I want to do all the work myself. I'm not going to have a team, and I'll take the whole amount. So it's great for some people. It's great if you are not wanting to be involved directly in the milking of the cows yourself. And you can't build capital that way? No. It's very similar to being employed, but you have more controlled, you have to find the staff. But as the owner, you then have, the guarantee that someone will be there to milk. It's the problem of the contractor, not of the owner of the cows. So it was very traditional for a long time, like barbers. A lot of people did that, and some people still do, but it's not so common now. Because you can't really get those people that want that risk of having people on the ground. Absolutely. And then so we then went back to him again and said, come on, let's look at this farm. And he said, okay. So we did the numbers for the farm. We didn't go to the open days or anything because Mike didn't want to. We didn't want people knowing that we were going for them. Tom was still employed, foot trimming as well. And then we put an application in and were successful. What that looked like on paper was we were going to have 20% share of the business. Okay. So cows, tractors, parlour, anything put in originally, not the land, that was the landlord's. And then Mike would have 80%. And the reason behind that was really that Mike had the capital. We had 20% without borrowing. We'd sort of saved up through stock and various different things. And it incentivized us to make it a success, because every year we had the option to buy Mike a bit more out.
Yeah.
So, with a cap of 50%. So it just incentivized us to do a good job, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, we were just saying in the kitchen actually how, like, I think it's a very different thing to build a business from scratch, having had to do it, to kind of stepping into kind of a legacy farm business where all the cows are there and the machinery and the investment's already done and you're effectively managing it forward. But how once you've had to build your own, then it's, you know, it's clear, it's almost something that other farmers I see who maybe are struggling, and there's a lot of folk around with that at the moment. But then it's like the fact that they can see what first generation farmers like you have done, how you've built it up, and you've probably had to keep costs low and, like, you know, take it step by step, and how you've done that. But you've also used other people's capital as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, I always, like, when we went into the business, even though I didn't know much about farming, but by that point we'd sort of surrounded ourselves with other farmers and sons of and daughters of farmers who were sort of taking on their businesses. And I was always a bit jealous of, like, being not handed on a plate at all, but that sort of access.
Yeah.
But actually, that also comes with hardship, because you've got a system that is already in place, and it's sometimes very hard for them to challenge that. I mean, the best thing about taking on a business that is already going is you don't have those startup niggles. You know, we were so oblivious when we took on the business. You know, we were like, oh, well, we're not going to vaccinate for anything. You know, everything came in, and it was just, we said that we wanted to do like 5,500 litres the first year. We thought, you know, that's, you know, achievable. I think we did 4,700 or something, and that we got IBR. We had cows from 50 different farms because the milk price was good. You know, all of those things that you basically have to go through when you start a business to learn. And we very much have used those examples on taking, you know, we'll probably move to that at some point, but taking on another business. Those niggles, we did learn from them. But it does, to me, it's like no set way of thinking. We were lucky that we had Mike as like an anchor in the business, and he had a way of doing things. Yeah. But we didn't have any like set way that we wanted to farm. We knew our big thing was we wanted to turn grass to milk. That's what we knew. Yeah. Well, Tom knew more. And we wanted to be block calving because it suited the farm and the system and the low cost. And I suppose people often ask me about the organic thing. We actually did organic really because Mike had organic farms, and that's what he knew. It wasn't so much as a values thing. Yeah. But it then became our values just because that's all we knew. I had only ever farmed that way. And I think for us on paper, it looked best organically. And I think you find a lot with farmers who go organically originally, often it's financial. Yeah. And unless they're inheriting it from a family member who's been organic for a long time, often it is a financial decision originally because it stacks up on the farm, that specific farm. Yeah, and would you say because if you're mainly grass-based already, then there is that, you know... I mean, you tick that box, but there is a huge difference between, in terms of like the amount of cows you can milk and the amount of... you know, land availability, all of those things with organic and conventional. They look very similar on paper in terms of treating the herd the same. Like we pretty much, you know, we don't do very many different things, but the stocking rate is very different and becoming increasingly more different with climate, I think. Right, okay. Is what we've seen. Can you expand a bit on that? I think probably, and I'm not sure if others have seen this, is that basically when it does start raining and when it does, you know, when things change, we don't have tools in the box that we can react quickly. It's the like, what do you call it? It's the response to catch up with it is slower. You know, obviously we have slurry, we have like FYM, we do composting, like all of those things, but actually the response and the catch up is actually quite a long time. And so that can be a challenge. Right. And I just find, you know, the access to forage is very difficult. It's quite hard to get hold of organic forage. Yeah. No one sells their best stuff.
No.
You need more land because the yield is lower on organic, because you don't have,
Yeah.
nitrogen or...
And I suppose all your input costs as well, and particularly all your infrastructure.
Yeah.
You're spreading that
Over
cost
less,
over
less animals.
Yeah, and less litres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, the premium needs to be there to be able to, for the business to succeed.
And then when you're talking about that time lag in recovery, is because you can't just go and put fert on or whatever to get it to grow.
Not even a lot of fert. It's just that wake up of the plant again after a dry period. We find,
okay, really?
I just find it's quite hungry after, and we've tried everything from grazing longer cover. We use that as a tool within our business, but we don't do it across the whole farm the whole time. But we have, one of probably our best investments, which I really was anti having because I'm not a machinery girl at all, was a slurry tanker. And actually, being on the list for a tanker, for someone to come, we've got a very good contractor, but we're not. They've got bigger farm. We're not high on the list for them. Having our own flexibility to follow the cows has made a massive difference.
Okay.
So being able to put nutrients on when it needs and behind, on a regular, rather than, oh dear, the slurry lagoon's getting quite full, let's get it out.
Yeah.
We can just keep trickling away through the summer.
Yeah.
And just get it on when it needs. In a drought, nothing really helps us in. It's not really doing a lot in
the moisture from it.
Yeah, we have got it's got weeping walls, so the solids stay at the top. The liquids do go to the bottom lagoon, so we do have access to liquidy. Yeah. But it's it's not. I think there becomes a point where it's just hot.
Yeah.
No matter what system you're doing.
That's interesting.
You're struggling.
I'm quite surprised actually that you said that, the difference there, and particularly the soil coming back. And there's not a farm difference there?
No, I mean, if anything, the other farm that we rent, the conventional, is actually in poorer condition because it's been set stocked for a long time. The guy was retiring. He'd probably grown different crops on areas which probably weren't so suitable. Yeah. So it has, he was retiring over the last 2 years. So the cows had, we bought some of their cows and they think they have access to the whole farm. They've been challenging to train to move every 12 hours because they really were let loose. They're sort of a wild, across the whole lot. So actually that soil should be not in, and the home soils are pretty good and we're pretty proud of them. But moisture is just so key, as we all know.
And I suppose, like you were saying, with the recovery thing is okay, if you put fert on and it's dry, it's not going to do anything.
No.
But at least when you get moisture, then it'll go.
It's the response rate of it rains, you get the fert on, or you get it on just before, and it just it's doing what it should do. Yeah. But we have, we've had an amazing whole crop, peas and barley. It's probably got us out of jail this year. Okay. Very expensive in terms of it wouldn't probably be you wouldn't do the whole farm. It's part of regenerating certain fields. And it was undersown with a herbal ley. But we had 10 tonne of whole crop an acre off it. And that, for us, organically, is pretty incredible. Brilliant. And Tom sprayed it with a lot of...
you put that in the pit?
Yeah, put it in the pit, yeah. And, probably because of that, we've got enough silage to feed from now until turn out next year. That's probably given us the buffer, that and a few extra bits that we got hold of. But the thing with that, Tom sprayed it with, quite a lot of different... I don't know what you call them, inoculants. They're different biological inoculants. I don't tend to get involved in them.
Is that as it goes into the pit, or
no?
Is it in the field?
We actually have a sprayer on at home, because we have the organic arable as well, and they do quite a lot of spraying with different things, biological solutions like fish guts. I think there's some milk went on one. It's just I don't tend to get too involved because it's way out of my pay grade, but. That grew like stink, and maybe we just timed it right, getting it in. It went in April, but it really has given us the buffer. And I was really worried about it because at one point it looked like it was dead.
Right.
So it was,
well, that's good, isn't it? And and that is a challenge you mentioned about on the organic. It's hard to get additional ground, and it's that's always such a pain. I found running an organic grass farm for beef is like you get this opportunity next door or nearby, but then it's like the Soil Association or whoever your certification body is will not let you essentially manage that as an organic for 2 years. You can't put it through the cows, really.
No.
You can do a bit more second year and whatever you can do.
Are you fully organic here then?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you were just... Do you market any meat or anything as grass-fed organic?
No.
No. Because that is to me is a really... We sell a tiny bit of beef in the village, like and also to a couple of restaurants. Very small scale. But I market it as grass-fed because people actually don't seem to mind about the organic bit when it comes to the actual beef.
It's interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's I certainly we find that, and I think we were Pasture for Life.
Oh, okay.
And we used to do quite a lot of meat marketing, and I've done my bit with the hairnet on, and going to BBC Good Food Show and like selling. We did presentations and got chefs to cook our mutton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just found with that, and maybe it's just a bit of laziness or doing something easier, is we now sell pedigree animals. That's our main business.
Yeah.
And if we sell someone 4 bulls, that's one customer. And it's one customer who I'm going to enjoy a real good conversation with, probably. Enjoy that interaction. If I sell one animal cut up, that might be 20 to 40 customers who all want to have a chat. And it's just a time thing. Yeah. And...
time's money, isn't it?
Time,
as well?
Yeah.
And energy.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also, but I think the Pasture for Life thing, it didn't really... That certification, I couldn't see a margin. Because organic price at the moment for finished fat cattle is like £7.30 a kilo. So if conventional is just around 6 now, but that's significant. And so like if we do sell stuff organic, it just goes through the supply chain,
ABP or
whatever. Because that, because the extra effort of marketing. Well, I do think it's a good thing to look at. It's something we're always going to have with the TB risk of selling breeding stock. It's always up in our back pocket that we could do something like that. And
how come then you're organic? Is that because some of your clients are organic and they need organic bulls, or derogation wise, it's pretty, you can get conventional onto organic?
Yeah, no, people don't need it for that. No. To be honest, it's funny because I sometimes have a bit of friction sometimes with the certification bodies. Yeah. Because I don't know, annoy them too much, but it's like sometimes, especially with this stuff, like we can prove this land's not had any chemicals on for 5 years. There's records of on the farm, and yet we can't use it as organic. But it's more organic than any food you could ever get for anything, and yet some of the rules and regs around some of the other species in livestock agriculture, like chickens and pigs, organic systems, it's really questionable in terms of environmental welfare in comparison. And yet we're really sort of hamstrung. And I think particularly for growing new entrants, people who don't have a load of capital or inherited a farm behind them, that's quite a barrier to growth.
And it's quite expensive as well, the certification.
Yeah,
like we have, we can't,
absolutely.
Obviously we get the premium within our milk price to be organic, and we have to have the certification. Yeah. Whereas you guys, as we talked about the grass-fed thing, if you were selling it direct to a customer, they're not going to ask for your certification. It's a cost, isn't it? Because I have this with Claire, Claire Whittle, who you know as well. I mean, whether she wants to go organic or not, because actually to her actual business, is it worth? Do her customers actually mind about that? And what is she going to do with the animals? She's it's not. It's the same with the red tractor. I think it's like 95%. It might even be higher now of milk in the UK is red tractored. So it's like pretty blanket. You can't really get a milk contract without it. Yeah. So we all accept it. Whereas in the beef and it depends where you're selling it, doesn't it?
It depends where you're selling it. It depends how desperate buyers are for meat at different times in the market. So sometimes it's like you almost can't sell things without it, and other times it's like they seem to then not care. Yeah. But So
your organic reason is you like the way you farm.
I think there's a principle there. It's wanting to support the movement. I believe in organic food. I think some of the production stuff. Yeah, I think the way it's within, as soon as you create a bureaucracy, it gets slightly unwieldy. And I think that's a little bit behind it. But we are still organic, just so. But yeah, I do want to support that. And because I think the other thing is like with the whole regenerative agriculture thing, it's all very well, but I do think there's a reputational risk there where as time goes on, you know, if you farm really intensively and if regenerative farming is a journey, then like tomorrow I'm going to use less fert or less spray and now I'm regenerative. And then I'll sell the product.
At what point does it end? Yeah.
What the fuck is it?
Yeah.
know? And so for me, it's like, at least with organic, you do know what it is.
Yeah.
And there are these restrictions. And I do think there's power in that. And I think eventually, I think that'll probably come full circle and the value will be seen there. Because I do think if that, it doesn't take too many bad news stories about regen if there's tests done on food products and you know, is this different chemically in terms of chemical exposure. And I think it's probably why people buy it organic more than the grass fed, is actually to avoid sprays, all that sort of stuff.
I really saw that in America. So I travelled a bit of America when I was doing my Nuffield, and the organic and conventional is so different out there. And it's really the only way you can guarantee grazed milk. So people buy it for that, and also you can't use antibiotics within an organic dairy system there.
Yeah.
So that's really like, it's the differential between the two is why it has a real place for customers.
Yeah.
So like they have a very standard system there that majority of farmers would do, and that doesn't involve grazing. So if you're looking for grazed milk, then you buy organic. So it does different. Whereas in this country, you can very much be conventional and grazed, and some very good farmers are doing that at a very high level. But you can have it the other way as well, where you have a more American system and you're milking 3 times a day. No right or wrong, but just the choice in the market.
Yeah,
it makes that different over there.
And because organic will you'll have to have a certain number of grazing days. Is that right?
Yeah.
How's that with the drought?
Well, I think
do they give you leeway?
I mean, yes, they are. It's conditions allow is the line.
Okay.
But for us, we're still grazing. I say grazing. They are having 95% of their diet it's still forage based.
Yeah.
It's still come from the farm, but it's being fed either in the feed trailer, which is following them. I'm still moving them around because I think with flies and things like that, I think it's best for them. That's allowed. You know, they're still out.
Yeah.
You know, they're still out moving. They're just eating whatever's in the paddock and then being buffer fed morning and night while they're waiting to be finished milking. And then the other way around in terms of, you know, the feed trailer just gets topped up. You know, they've got access full. But they are, you know, the only thing that gets a little bit dicey is that, you know, some milk buyers will allow derogations on feed, whereas others won't. So then that that puts people at a different advantage point in terms of access to forage, which can be a real challenge for organic.
And even on the conventional contract though, there'll be grazing days in there as well, or
depending on who you supply.
Right,
absolutely,
okay.
like
but for you?
within Arla on the conventional, no. But if you're under a certain contract, there's like special contracts. Then there were some of them have been removed, some of them have been added. It depends who you're then aligned with.
Yeah.
But the standard Arla contract, there is no Pacific grazing days. But then you know, co-ops like First Milk, they've very much come out and said that they want grazed milk. You know, they're moving away from. But they were quite lucky that a lot of their milk was coming from that system already, so it wasn't a big switch. You know, it wasn't a big switch. And then some of the contracts, you know, like Waitrose have a minimum amount of grazing days. So if you're aligned with Waitrose, you have to graze for a certain period of time.
And because you're quite involved with Arla, and you're on. Chair?
No, well, it's a Danish co-op. Well, I say it's Danish. It's not. It's a European co-op, but it was originally from Denmark.
Yeah.
And through various mergers, it's become throughout Europe. And the great thing about it is it's farmer owned, and so we have farmer representation across the co-op from each country.
Yeah.
So we have you can be elected within your district, and there's districts throughout the country. It's about 52 maybe, can't remember exactly the number, and there'd be 2 elected within that district, a chair and a vice chair, and then there's regions, and each district is within a region.
Yeah.
And I chair that region.
Cool.
So our job is to represent that region and the thoughts of those farmers, and we take the information back up. And then there's the BOR, which sits sort of above that, which is Board of Representatives.
Right.
And there are 28, I think, representatives within the country, and you have to be elected within district to be on that.
Okay.
And then we meet every month for our milk price calls, and then we also meet 2 to 3 times a year in Denmark, depending on the year, depending on whether it's a election year or not. So we all meet together, and that's everyone from each country brings their BOR together, and then we discuss, anything from capital within the business through to brands, through to, everything. It's very fast. It's very interesting, and we hear reports from our CEO, Peder, who's been in position for a very long time now.
Yeah.
Our job is to represent our farmers.
Yeah, and so I don't know if. As a woman working in leadership roles within the industry, it seems like you've had there's been quite a lot of opportunity to career progression, all of that sort of stuff, professional development, and, you've got a really good profile and you're a good speaker and representative of those sectors. So you found that's quite a good thing, because some people can get stuck on farm and it's, it can be challenging, mental health and other things, but it's good to get out there and talk to people. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm of the opinion that it should be just the right person for the role always. So within the farm, but within women representing, if, I don't want to be there just because I'm a woman. I would rather be there because they want me there as the right voice. But then we have to have the confidence in the first place to stand.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think it's all around making sure that the women have the confidence and have the right role models. I was very lucky that the reason I stood for BOR in the first place was that Shirley Preston, who'd been elected for a very long time, was retiring, and I rang her for some advice. She's another organic farmer, and she just said, if you're going to do it, I'd love you to go the whole way. Some people stay as just district elected for a long time and then step up to BOR.
Yeah.
But she said, just go for both at the same time. I'm stepping down. We need more females there, and we also need an organic representation. And so she encouraged me, and she'd been a role model, the whole way through. They're not far from us. Her son's elected. They've been organic for a long time. Slightly different system to us, all year round calving, smaller herd.
Yeah.
But I just had seen her do it, and it would have been way more challenging for her to have sat in that role because times have changed so much.
Yes.
So she'd smashed those ceilings already, and it was much easier for me to go up that escalator rather than her. So I'm forever grateful for people like her. There was a few of them, Jane, Celia, who were all at a similar time before my time, that really made it possible. Really, I don't mind. I don't mind being a female within a male-dominated. It doesn't bother me at all. But I know it takes someone to say, you could do that, to be able to. You've got to have someone to give you that confidence. And had a couple of friends encourage me to do it that had done it beforehand.
Yeah.
And said, I think you'd be good at it. You got an accountancy view as well, so that would help. Yeah. So I've been very lucky. I have been very lucky. I think right place, right time.
Yeah. I mean, you're involved in other areas as well, like in terms of other outside interests, because you work for Sustainable Food Trust as well. And
I do a couple of other things. Well, Sustainable Food Trust is only really this year. So the name we've put on it is Strategic Advisor. Basically, within their comms department, to bring them anything I learn in terms of, I've been at a really cool viewing this week of something called Derek versus Derek, which is it's a great film, and you really must watch it if you haven't. Anyone listening, it's basically two Dereks, both farmers. They live next to each other. One is rewilded, the farm, and one is very conventional dairy farm, growing maize. Just very traditional system. And they farm alongside each other, and it sort of follows them for 3 years, and their sort of ups and downs. The beavers. I have to say that word. One Derek is probably quite responsible for a lot of the beavers within the southwest, although we'd never put it on him.
I remember going to a farm visit at Regenerative Farm
Yeah.
someone had taken it on.
Yeah.
It was in Somerset.
Oh, okay.
And I remember walking around I used to work as a professional ecologist.
Okay,
So we were looking at the ecology.
Yeah.
And we're walking around this water system and these ditches. It was a very wet farm.
Yeah.
It was like everywhere you trod was wet. And I was like, this is really weird. I've not really seen a farm this wet before. Like, it's not draining. It hadn't been raining that much. And I suddenly get to a tree and this is completely open.
Yeah.
And then there's like, hang on, what the is that? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
obviously
it's like this.
a beaver just eating away at this thing. I was like, have you got beavers? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's still such a taboo thing.
Yeah, but it's the fact that it's just out there and not actually just in these release pens.
No,
is right
there's
out there.
There are beavers within an enclosure of some land that we rent, so they're part of our landlord's rewilding project. But the Derek versus it's very comical. They're both they're very bright people, so they heavily believe in their system, but are able to, probably the wife of Derek Banbury, who is the dairy farmer, she probably keeps them on their toes because she appreciates the rewilding in terms of the nature and loves seeing the stalks, and they've got lots of and also he has a lot of people visit the rewilding who then stay at their holiday cottages, so they benefit in that way. But they both believe their system is right, so it's really interesting. So went to that, and I sat on a panel with the two of them at the end of the night, with the Guardian actually were interviewing, which they can have differing views sometimes on how agriculture should look, but in terms of sustainable food trust, I bring them what I'm seeing out there, and I'm trying to bring probably more of a not commercial view of farming, but I think Patrick, who is the CEO, has a vision for how farming should look, and it's an incredible. He has a beautiful dairy, and his wife's fantastic, Becky, and they make cheese, and they don't sell any of their milk on the market, but it would be very hard for us to represent that with the scale that we're at. So I suppose I'm trying to bring the view of more of a commercial, it looks like
bridge that gap.
Exactly, and not in any sort of, you can see values of your business. Basically, if you want to see someone's values, look at their business. It's a reflection. Yeah. You farm how you that is key to it. Yeah. So, but I do believe that it is much easier to have some influence by being within something than throwing stuff from the outside. So, I have a role within NFU as well, which that they haven't always agreed. I'm sure. And it is a challenge. It's always a challenge. But I believe that you really are better to have views if you've got a seat at the table, because I think there's a whole saying around, or you're on the menu. And I think it's a balance.
That's interesting,
It's a balance between, I don't always agree with any of the things that I do, but I will represent a vast view of what I think agriculture at the time. So, but
you must have a view.
Yeah.
So what's your vision?
I'm absolutely passionate about turning grass to milk, and I love that. And I whether that's organic, conventional, I want a healthy cow, healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy cow, healthy milk, healthy human. Like that whole cycle to me. Yeah. And the education thing is massively important to me. So sharing that story, whether that's through socials, through school visits, through anything positive we can do for our sector, is massively important. Yeah. I don't mind if someone wants to go and house their cows. If that's the system and that's what suits how they want to farm, we can all we can all tweak things to be more sustainable. Yeah. It's not my role to go and tell them to farm differently, but how I farm is how I'm passionate about. I believe massively in using what we've got already, the natural resources of when the sun and rain coordinates nicely. But that's just how I learnt to farm. So organic's how I learnt to farm. Yeah. But I don't have a problem with us having a conventional farm.
So, and this is probably like asking you which one of your children you like best, but which, you conventional organic, is there a direction you'd like to go in, or do you like the combination?
I like the combination. I like to me it shares a bit of risk with the market as well. Yeah. Often if one's doing well, the other's not doing so well. You
wouldn't choose one?
I think I'm more confident farming organically because I know how to farm organically. Tom runs the conventional farm, my husband. I wouldn't have a clue how to start applying fertiliser in the right, I have a basic knowledge, and I'm sure I could learn quite quickly, but we use a lot of the stuff that we learnt on the organic for the conventional, like the same, we still selective dry cow, all of those things that we do on the organic because we've had to reduce antibiotics. But to be honest, conventional has caught up. That's what I realised when I was doing my field, is that the difference between the two, especially in the grazing system, is basically the nitrogen. In terms of if you're a grazer. So we have to, as an industry, reduce antibiotic use. So that is already within that conventional farm. And also that's a cost thing as well. If we can use less nitrogen, we can use less antibiotics. It's all a bottom line thing. I want to farm in a sustainable way in terms of bottom line. We're tenants of 3 different farms and a contract farming agreement. If it doesn't add up on paper, we can't keep doing it. There's no capital appreciation there that's going to, in terms of the land, that's going to ride us through.
No.
It is what's there on paper.
Yeah. The capital of the cows, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
if
ups and
inflation keeps going,
ups and downs depending on the beef price. We're very coal prices is ever moving with.
Sure.
Yeah.
So so that in terms of that video, and just coming back actually to Derek, because is it Derek Gow, the other guy? Because I've only really come across him until I saw about the film.
Yeah.
That as a rewilding guy, I didn't realise he was at a farm. Was he a farmer first, or was he a rewilder who's? No,
he was a farmer, and it didn't work. So he then questioned what he was doing. Very Scottish. He's fantastic, and they're both fantastic. And
where are they, down south somewhere?
Yeah, Devon, near Plymouth. They have huge mutual respect for each other. Yeah. But they both don't want to do.
It's interesting. Yeah. Because he's quite aggressive on his socials, anti-farming, some other stuff I've seen. And
I think he's become less since this film, which is quite interesting because I think Derek Banbury has actually created some space for nature within his farm. Yeah. After the relationship's been filmed, he's understood a bit. Interesting. But his hedges are still going to look like a garden. They are beautifully. I say beautifully in terms of neat aesthetic. Yeah. They're not what ours look like because we some of our landlords want longer hedges. We work with what they specifically want, and also there's a shoot at home, so we have to be quite mindful of that. But those are not going to change. But he has fenced off areas that he's not able to, use for crops or for cows, and has enabled more space for nature. He understands what Derek's trying to do, but it's just not what he's. I mean, they are employing 20 people at Gower. Compared to the next door on the dairy, they had 20 people work at Derek Gower's. It's £90,000 a month there to keep that place running. Right. And it's a crazy amount. So is it realistic over a huge area? They rely a lot on funding from different philanthropy and different. Yeah.
So can you replicate?
I think it is within that area, but I think without Derek himself. Yeah. I'm not sure. We have a rewilding project next to us, which we used to have the cows on. We had some White Park cattle on. Yeah. And we've sold them back to the estate. Now they've got someone who knows how to look after cows. We were sort of the livestock partner, basically. Yeah. And that piece of land, we said no to renting it because they would have had to pay us to rent it. There was no water, no fencing, and in a real state. Beyond, I couldn't have grown heifers on it, and that's what it would have been for. Yeah. So I think for that piece of land, I have no problem with that being used for rewilding. Yeah. But when it's big bits of land that are able to produce food, or I think we can do both on the same piece of land. That's my thing, is that I think that we can. Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I probably... I've been turned off that just because I'm quite anti-rewilding. Yeah, and that actually interests me because I would have thought that you would have liked the idea of it in certain situations. Yeah, I think what I like is probably more like, I don't know, Patrick's, what you're saying about sustainable food trust, but essentially it's
like for me, it's like what's the point of farmers, of people, and a landscape without people in it, or people who are not really part of that nature and producing in it. And like you say, pretty much, like if I look at our farm, I think we really punch above our weight in terms of wildlife ecology, and I think we compare with any rewilding projects in terms of the wildlife benefit, and yet we're producing
Food as
great
well.
food
Yeah.
and employing people.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't you have both? And what I don't like is the castigation of and some of the stupid scare stories I think we've had recently with Chris Packham saying that all farms are basically factory farms.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, as someone who is organic, but our conventional systems, 90%, or at least 80, 90% of all our conventional farms are actually really good farms with good welfare, pretty good environmental outputs, even on conventional farms.
Yeah, carbon footprint compared to the rest of the world is actually
We're
pretty
all
crazy.
over it.
Yeah.
Like, we've got this incredible produce that is produced to really high standards, the best standards, the highest standards of the world. And I think we could make more of that as a brand,
nation.
as a nation, as a national brand, because whenever you go travelling, and I did the Nuffield as well, and like everyone has this view of England as this perfect bucolic place. And so like there's such a potential there to sell that story of the English countryside.
Oh, absolutely.
And we already have the highest standards in the world. We already have some of the best products. Yeah, our beef is the best in the world. And
and our milk.
And our milk, of course. Yeah. So
well, Manette, like, I don't know if you've read Manette's report, but if you haven't, she talks a lot about Brand Britain
so this
and
is
the
Manette
potential.
Batter's.
Manette Batter's report, and actually it's one of the only reports that the government have, maybe because they commissioned it themselves, but they have taken action from. Is that she talks a lot about Brand Britain and its potential, basically, that it's not meeting its potential at the moment. We haven't seen the best of it yet, and what we should do with that and export. That is important. We are an island. We're gonna, so I'm excited with what they do with that. Whether they do, I think we have such short policy and short term within that. It's who picks that up. But it's she picks that up a lot in her report. And the best thing about the report also is that she consulted, I don't know how many hours she consulted for, but amongst farmers. So she had different dairy groups meet, different beef, sheep, every different sector. And I think that came through within the report, because I think sometimes these things are like written and then shelved, or not. A farmer couldn't read, they're so up there that we just can't even relate to what it's even talking about, because it's in a different language, whereas hers is very, farmer-led, but for policy to pick up. Yeah,
she's an interesting character, because so for those who don't know, she's NFU president. She was for the 2 terms or whatever.
I think 3
3
maybe.
terms, was it?
2 or 3,
and then she's in the House of Lords
COVID,
now. But just a very impressive person who's super competent, and she seems to think really deeply on a lot of stuff, and really considers all parts of the industry when you speak to her. And
she's written a book as well, which I think I haven't read, but I'm sure it's great, because I think she was one of the ones within women, when it was challenging to be a woman within that space, and she would have been one that pushed the boundaries, so that others could, so it was more normal for others. Yeah, and she talked a bit about that, and how, because I think her father wouldn't let her take on the farm. Is that right? It says that she makes a great lasagna, and she picks up on that. But she did take on the farm, which is pretty impressive at that point in history. For now, there's a lot of women running farms, or partnering with their husband to run a farm. It's way more common now, but I think back then it really wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I kind of see different things. Sometimes you'll meet communities or families that are very culturally kind of male dominated within the farm, but then also you see, like, some of the people you talked about on some of the on the dairy boards. Like, I know people, like some I mean this in the best possible way, but some absolutely terrifying women who are like chair of this, and they were leading in the dairy sector. I know family friends of ours, and then like even in our family, my grandmother, she was the middle daughter of 3 daughters of my great grandfather, and they started off in the Great Depression. They couldn't sell lambs, so they took them to market, didn't get a bid, brought them home. So great grandfather cut them up, and he sent his 3 daughters out on bikes to Droitwich, the local town, to sell the meat to people. And then through that process in the Great Depression, they got my nana got she started working with hotels and some of the retail places, and they had an outlet. And anyway, she started a grocer's shop in Droitwich.
Wow.
And her sister, the sister that was unmarried, ended up with on the farm. And then she built this incredible grocer's shop. And some of the old families in the town, when you see them and they'll talk about, and they'll remember the grocer's shop and how she went in and like.
Is it still there now?
It's not, because what happened was, she'd tell stories about how, I just like that whole community link as well, because like families would come in, couldn't afford the groceries. So she had a slate. And then if people's slate got too long, she's like, you're going to have to pay. But it was like when you've got small businesses part of the community, that's like to and froing and support just kind of happens.
Bartering a bit as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I'm sure people did stuff, and she could just help people out, and then that actually got compulsory purchased, and I think that was just after because my dad was born above the shop.
Wow.
And but that got compulsory purchased by to build a doctor's surgery, and then she sold that business, or got forced to sell it, and then bought her sister out, who had, I think she had 2/10 of the farm already as inherited, but then she had to buy 6/10 of the farm off her sister. So then she bought this farm.
Wow.
So you just think, what a cool, like you think like she would have been born, I think, before the First World War. And to do all of that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But there's people like that. There are families around that have this model. And I think sometimes if you've grown up with like really strong female role models, you kind of just assume that's what the world's like.
That's normal, yeah.
As a bloke, you don't experience
No,
the same
you don't
stuff.
see,
So you
It's interesting because the estate down the road, we live right next door to something called Ford Abbey, which is like a National Trust estate, but it's still privately owned. It's open to the public. It's got beautiful gardens. And the Kennard family, so Alice, who's in charge at the moment, it runs the female line. So her daughter, she's got 3 children. The youngest, Marcia, it will go to her. So it's always run down the female line. And her husband is involved very much in the estate, and they have quite a bit of land, and they're in partnership with farmers in terms of they have a goat dairy, they have lots of different things going on, but it will follow the female line, which is quite unique actually.
No, that's interesting, isn't it? No, I think it is, but I think it does, there's definite like other there's almost
there's still
like
a whole other, but also there's still a whole group that don't, because the confidence isn't there to stand, and we've got to accept that it's not for everyone. If people don't want to do it, then let others that do.
No, you've only got to look at sort of comment sections sometimes under social media, haven't you? Nightmare. Good. Well, in terms of like we were just saying about the quality of produce, and that's something we have. Dairy farms at the moment, like it's not good news out there for family farms. There's a lot of people struggling. I think I heard of 2 people giving up just last week.
Yeah, so the dairy, we're very much, even though we're producing milk in England, we are very much part of a global market now. Even whether you're supplying a local cheesemaker, you are still part of a global market. The pricing is based. We all bounce off each other in terms of pricing. So we've just coming probably out slowly of a downturn. So that becomes quite challenging, and it started off really with too much milk around. We had the drought obviously last year as well, and feed price rate. There's a big correlation between milk price and milk volumes and milk feed price ratio. So actually, how much it cost to produce a litre
Yeah.
of milk and how much the grain. So that was quite favourable. So people in the drought had to feed a lot of concentrate because they didn't have the forage.
Yeah.
So actually milk was up. So suddenly we had a glut of milk, but not a home for it.
Yeah.
So then we went down.
Yeah.
And actually then we've come into this drought period and people are still obviously struggling for forage.
Yeah.
But the price isn't there. Whereas last year, through the drought, we still had quite a strong price.
Yes.
And there were sort of other things at play, like blue tongue in Europe was quite at play then. So
Right.
that there was a lot of reduction in milk there, but they then very much came back to the market when the vaccination came into use.
Yeah.
And so that flushed the market even more.
Right.
So there are so many factors now. And then obviously with the war happening at the moment, the oil price,
Yeah.
very much depending
Energy
on your
costs.
system, is just
Yeah.
and actually even accessing fertilizer for some people
Yeah.
to be able to get the amount of crop they need in
Yeah.
the. So there's a lot of factors. So I can totally understand the challenge, and it's been at below cost of production for a period of time now. So some people
Yeah.
can stomach that for a period of time, but how long can you stomach that in your business?
And the organic price has been pretty.
We've been pretty
good.
stable for, what have we been? I think we've had about 18 months of pretty stable.
Yeah.
We had a big chunk where we were quite high compared to the conventional, but that
Yeah.
was because we lost quite a lot of milk and supply and demand were pretty in kilter.
So the story around sort of supermarkets then being the bad guy,
Yeah.
is that like, if it's just world markets, like I guess, I mean, there's an element that the supermarket could not just go and buy milk from the rest of the world or
Yeah.
whatever, but you know, they are businesses, so
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they're importing milk. It's more on the fact that they are that the price is based on a world market. Like the pricing, you know, we all know we're all so connected nowadays, and we are we do export a bit of milk. We do, you know, we obviously do import some milk, but it's.
But then there's like the milk powder for catering and stuff like that
Yeah,
that will be
absolutely
sort of shippable and you know,
so
that
skimming
will
milk,
have-
you know, skimmed milk powder, and you know, China was like our big like other market where we could get rid of excess. Most of Europe were getting rid of milk. They didn't want to China. And the same obviously with New Zealand is set up for that.
Yeah.
And Australia, I mean, probably Australia less so now in terms of milk.
Yeah.
But New Zealand is very much set up on that powdering system. China, I don't know how long ago it was, but said they wanted to become very self-sufficient in dairy.
Yeah.
And so they, you know, we knew this, and they have become more and more self-sufficient. And it was very government-led and funded. So that market, it's not closed to us, but it's not our vital, like, you know, so where is next? Where is our big, you know, next? Middle East has been quite good for us in terms of Arla because of our brands.
But they've got some pretty big dairies out there now as well, haven't they?
Definitely becoming. I think we've been quite lucky with the brands because their economy has grown in terms of the wealth of the country has grown, and often you find as a country becomes wealthier that they turn to dairy products and known dairy products. You know, that we've got this brand called Puck, which is, I mean, personally I don't like it. The taste of it is quite grim, but it's like it's a spreadable cheese really in a jar. It's not. I don't think we even sell it in the UK. I've never seen it on the shelf, but it's very popular over there and it's done very well. And so the Starbucks brand is over there as well, and we've got things within there, and it's done well for our business. It's all part of the same co-op.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, isn't it? And I guess it's on a previous podcast we sort of touched on overproduction.
Yeah.
As you know, we're terrible as farmers as an industry. I mean, obviously, you used to have the milk marketing board and milk quotas, which maybe helped a little bit stabilise. Maybe it wasn't so good. I don't know. But there's something there that we will, like when the price is high, we just like double down. Everyone just goes for it, and then that then has the consequences. And it was really interesting putting some clips about that conversation on socials, and some dairy farmers, you know, and I was just making the case that it's all very well to have these fluctuations, but basically like every 10 years we lose, I don't know, something like a quarter or a third of dairy farms or something like that. And so like, what's the end game here? Is it just people getting bigger? Is it you know, if we've got bigger farms or bigger dairies, are we just going to get bigger dairies, bigger conventional dairies, more housed stuff like in Saudi Arabia, like in
I don't think
China?
we'll ever get that extreme because of the setup of the country and the roads and the whole logistical side. You know, we don't have the scale of Saudi Arabia or of America. We don't have don't have the planning regulations to just keep putting on more cows.
Okay.
I do think businesses will get bigger. I think I still believe there'll be a place for small farms who are selling direct and wanting, because I think there will always be a proportion of the population that want to buy that. But they're going to have to be inventive in terms of doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that probably is the model.
Yeah.
If you're small, I don't know how, in terms of like logistically picking up milk from a small herd, financially doesn't look
You wouldn't
great.
get a contract because it's too
I
far
don't.
out.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
difficult
if you're a member, then you're a member. You know, we have a minimum, very small minimum of collection.
Yeah.
But you're part of the co-op, and that's probably it's a big plus to be part of that. But I think long term, probably those are the ones that will diversify and have other income streams and
So can
sell
you get
direct.
a contract?
Arla, no, can't, absolutely not. Not for a long time, No, we took on a few organic farms, what was it, 2 years ago, to fill a gap that we had. But no, not
Right.
a conventional. Absolutely not. No, they are quite strict. And also at the moment you can't expand. The beauty of an Arla contract was that once you're a member, you could then put on other units.
Yeah.
That has been removed at the moment because of the last autumn and too much milk.
Yeah.
We don't know when that will come back to the market, but we'll hopefully it will, because it was one of the huge draw points of being able to have an Arla contract. It meant you had access to taking on other farms, because that can be a huge barrier. You're not really, like, there's a couple of contracts you can get if you're within a certain distance of them as a business, not Arla, but other businesses. And I know that Barbers have done a very good thing with a local chap who was a new entrant. We helped them a bit with some some finances in terms of like financial planning, etc., and contacts, etc. He came. They came as a couple to see us, and and I helped them with a business plan. Anyway, Barbers gave them a contract, and that was more off the fact of them being a new entrant into a council farm. They wanted to support them, and I think it's really important that
Barbers cheese.
It's really important that we have people who are still willing to take risks on people, because milk contract going into a negative market. This was only recently. It's not, it's not an ideal thing.
No, but I also wonder a little bit about that. Like you say, if it's hard to get a contract, which people say it is now, that's hard for people to get in.
Yeah,
like
hugely.
you got in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like I think any industry has to have, an entry route.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I do worry about that. I don't think it's an unfounded concern about this sort of growth of scale, because I think as soon as you have that as well, it's going to make that entry level difficult for people, I think.
Absolutely, and I think that's why the share farming option is such a good one, because what we do struggle in as a sector is for labour. Well, some more than others. It depends on your system. It depends if you're a people person. It's not a skill everyone has. No. Having someone who's enthusiastic and has skin in the game is a huge advantage within a business. Yeah. Even if they're not wanting to do, like, we have bought a business partner out, they might just want a profit share. That kind of, for a new entrant, is quite attractive, because you can learn as you're learn and get more skills and build up through. So I think having more share farming or sort of profit share incentives as an employee should definitely be encouraged. Because I think it keeps people as well within a business. If you have some sort of ownership of cows, even if it's a couple, you feel part of something bigger, don't you? It's sort of a
no, absolutely, no, I think it's good. So I think if we did have a contract farming business as well, which gave us an opportunity to, like, we were carrying a bit of legacy farm debt, and I think that contract farming business really helped us get rid of that dead weight. So I think I think that is important. you're pretty busy. You have you're running 2 dairy farms. You've got a lot of industry hats on, smashing it on socials.
Well, I don't know, smashing it. I was just thinking about. I mean, socials is just what we're up to on the farm, I suppose, and I like the variety. I suppose. Lots of different caps, different things. I do enjoy. I think I would struggle to be 7 days a week. I did that for 7 years on the farm. Really? Very much not involved in anything, and very much built the business with Tom. And then I started doing little bits, and then sort of gave me confidence and tried other things. And I just like having. I suppose I like being able to have understanding of our sector as a bigger picture. Yeah. Because I think it helps our business as well.
I'm sure.
But also my skill set, I'm probably not a detailed person on the dairy, and I think it's good for me to bring bits of that back. We've got a very good team. It enables me to have a good team on the ground, but I do very much manage the day-to-day of the farm in terms of what everyone's doing. I haven't got a manager as such at home.
And that's on the organic?
On the organic at home, I've got 4 at home. So 2 full-time. One's just finished her apprenticeship and stayed on. And then another who's been with me since she was 18. She's been with me 5 years. She'd be like my second, but she doesn't want to manage people. She's not, she loves the cows, but wouldn't want to manage people. She does a lot of the medical records, movement stuff, does a lot of that stuff, but doesn't want to do a rota, or that's not her thing, which is absolutely fine.
It's good to have people that's varies.
She loves the cows, and she's great with the cows. And then I've got 2 sort of part-time in terms of one's an apprentice. Jake, he's the only boy on the farm, and he's does 4 weeks on, 5 days a week, and then does a week at college. So basically it's 4 days a week he does in total on the farm. And then I have another girl who does 3 days. She does every other weekend and Monday and Friday. So they sort of make one person. So there's 4, normally 1 per 100 cows. So there's, including me, it works out about that. But I suppose depending on where we are in the year, it feels we probably are slightly overstaffed, but I'd rather it be that way than the other, because I'm away sometimes, and it's just important that we cover. I don't want people under pressure too much.
And then you're managing a lot there. And then you were talking a little bit in the kitchen about this sort of ADHD side to it, maybe that either helps or challenges.
So I always say I think I'm probably undiagnosed, because I mean I'm not going to go and have an assessment or anything. I'm very self-aware of energy levels. I think a lot of it's around energy levels. So I probably thrive in slight under pressure. And so I have periods of time where I'm just I haven't got the energy as much, and then I have big push bits, and then more drop in energy. And I think probably this period, because I had kids so young, I spent my 20s doing kids and building the business, but very much being manual on the farm and fitting it in around the kids and stuff. And then this sort of my 30s has been more about, I suppose, my career, but I say career, but doing more, probably being slightly more selfish about stuff I want to do. The kids are 17, 14 and 8. But I said, if I was having a third, then we needed to share responsibility of having her, because, I had a boy and a girl, and it was, they were growing up, but Tom wanted 4. So we agreed to have 3. And so, there's a 7-year gap between them. But I mean, the farm was the thing that came in between. Everyone's like, what happened in between? A farm, a dairy farm, literally a dairy farm. So it was but Sess is the youngest is very easy, and she's very laid back and sort of maybe slightly neglected. She's not neglected, but you know what I mean? She's
does them good sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. She's not fussed over, she's not fussed over, and she just likes nothing more than coming with you. She wants to be, she knows the fun, she wants to be with you, around. So I think I've been lucky in that respect, that she has been like that. And I try and work my day that I, people take the piss and say, "Oh, do you know even how to do the wash in the parlour?" Because I often will get out the parlour at 7:30. We have this thing like, I'm happy to start early, and Lottie's an early person too. So often, I'll go and do something else, or she'll milk and she'll go and do something, whatever. We're both early people, but the next person comes in at 7.
Yeah.
So then I would either stay in for a little bit, move some cows around in terms of bring them out of the field so they can carry on milking. Because it is a long milking. We haven't invested in terms of a new parlour. Probably is quite a long milking compared to others. But it's kind of not shift based, but you get someone else 2 hours after come in and finish up. So it works. And then I like to be, if I'm at home, I'm doing the school run. So that's important to me. And I often will not milk afternoons. I'll be around and I'm happy to be in the office, or I'm happy to be out doing the cow, if we've got dry cows or anything he's doing. And at weekends, I will probably do more milking in the afternoons, but I don't do a lot of afternoon milking, just because we do everything management wise in the morning. And the afternoon is very much just milking the tank.
No, I think it's interesting. And like you say, it's almost like having that built-in, I don't know if schedule's the right word, but certainly I think people have said, Nikki, you're friends with Nikki Yoxall?
I know Nikki,
You know Nikki well. So she was always saying to me that you're definitely ADHD, and I think someone had said do this online thing, and it came out that I was extreme. Every trait or whatever. I was like, okay,
I do feel like people who are involved in animals often are. Like I would say, like Lottie, who's my main girl, she's actually come out of herself in the last year massively, and that's probably a maturity and an age thing. But she loved cows, but doesn't really like people. She's made, she's got great friends now, but she was very happy in her own company. And I think that is actually, you've got to be a certain person to want to be standing in a concrete pit milking cows. But, I love it. It's headspace for me, but I can't, I think we need to, it's a great benefit that the ag sector has.
I think lots of farms are.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And some people, I have no problem with people getting diagnosed and, but I feel like I am probably quite like you, that I'm quite self-aware. I know when I'm feeling like, yes, I've got lots, and I try and like get all of the stuff I need to do in that. And then if I need to have a bit of, time out in terms of like, just actually go and move fences up, do stuff that doesn't involve, being like this, then you have to manage yourself, don't you, a bit? Yeah,
100%. And I find that as well, being almost too busy, so that it's that situation where it's like, well, which crocodile's climbing into the canoe at the moment? I'll just deal with that. Solves the problem of kind of like task paralysis of what do I do now? It's like, I just have to do this now. And farming's like that. It's like, if you're cutting hay, the cows have got to be moved. You can't not do things. I think that's
you have to turn up.
You can't skive, really.
No.
And I think that's really helpful. And the other thing I find is having habits, because I'm not great at planning.
No.
But if I put habits in place that I do things I just do every day, don't think about, then that's how I can be a little bit more efficient, because I'm really disorganized otherwise.
No, I think I naturally would be, and I think I've learnt, like you, the habit thing, and I have like a diary that we're pretty strict about a diary between Tom and I, as in like shared diary, so that we know what we're doing, because otherwise it just doesn't work with like who's doing what, who's where, when, is that sort of thing. But also my memory is just not what it used to be. I just think, I don't know quite what it's got worse definitely in the last 6 months. But it's like, just not remembering people's names as well. I'm terrible with names. I have to really try harder on that one.
No, same. And then we've had a little boy. So I've got an 18-year-old, 16-year-old and 14-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And then Lizzie and I just had a little boy in December.
Oh, wow.
And that, just the tiredness, and then also the change in focus as well, has just like thrown all my habits are like, bye-bye, But it's all good fun. It's great. But,
absolutely.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's one thing, talking about managing that, but there can be quite a lot of stress with workload. And something you've talked about quite a lot, or is mental health on farm and just generally. But I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about
absolutely. I meditate most days. I am sort of
And when do you fit that in?
first thing in the
First
morning,
thing,
and
yeah.
like I'm very much a like 2 to 5 minutes. I'm not
Yeah.
a half an hour.
Use an app, or you do?
App Insight Timer is the one I use.
Okay.
It's very good, and we in COVID there was a sort of women in dairy group that did it, and then it became part of a bigger group, and it's called Focus Farmers. It was put together by a lady who did a Nuffield,
Yeah.
and she did it all about that, and then she created these groups, and I'm not sure what she's doing now actually, but it just made meditation normal, and everyone still checks in on this app. I mean, I'm not very good at checking in, as in you put an emoji when you've done your meditation. It's to try and encourage people,
Yeah.
and they're all from different parts of the sector, dairy farmers,
Okay.
coaches within the ag sec, and it just is encouraging. I don't do very well. I probably got 50 unread on there but it's seeing someone pop up that they're doing it keeps me going. So that helps.
And what does it give you?
Just gives me some calm before the day starts. People laugh, why do you get up at 4 when you don't start milking till 5? I have half an hour always to either drink a cup of tea on my own, or know that I've got half an hour that I can not get up for half an hour. I find it helps me have that buffer, because once I'm up, the day is coming at me. Once I'm outside that door, and so that I don't get much other space. So that is my time. And I try and be pretty brutal about that. That helps. I'm probably hyper aware of, I'm very self-aware in terms of where I am and how I feel. I've had times, I didn't do when I had Harry, I really struggled during that period. I think because all my friends were going to uni, I was just at home, with a baby, didn't really know what I was doing. But I was very lucky that I had a really good friendship group that were all doing it. They were much older than me, but it was all new to them. So we had something in common. So with that was just massive. And then with Evie, I wasn't particularly great either. I found that I don't think I'm like a real baby person, like the actual bit, I once they could smile at you and things like that, but the first bit is so hardcore. It is, those first 6 weeks are just exhausting. I had emergency cesarean, then another cesarean, had a cesarean with Cecily as well. But by my third, it was totally different story. I had a great, she came with me. I went back milking quite quickly afterwards. It was so different. But I think those stress points, I mean, I don't have that village, which I'm always very envious of other people having a village. And I think I've learned as I've got older.
There's less of those. Some people have it, but there's not that. There's
a lot of people.
There's a lot of women
who don't do
it. Who are
with
essentially isolated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm lucky because obviously I have a team on the farm, so there are people around the whole time. Yeah. And like we said, not that I'm asking them to look after Cecily so much, but there's other people around. So you're not in your house on your own or anything like that. And I'm out and about, obviously work-wise, but I don't have some people that I can just be like, can you come and look after? You know, can you? My mum died 7 years ago. I grew up in a household where mental health was very taboo, and my mum spent most of her career, she was a vet, she always worked full-time, most of her career struggling with mental health. And back then, if you were unwell, you were sectioned. So she was 6 months in hospital, then out, and through your teenage years, that's actually really formative time of your life. Yeah. So it's a huge, I suppose I've been very exposed to it from a young age, but then it is very hereditary. So I'm aware of that massively. Right. I am aware of it more. And things like menopause, all of those things, I am aware when it comes on and all of those things. But, and then I lost her to it. So, she died from suicide, and it's just I think the profession, farming as a profession, is so much more exposed to it. Yeah. Veterinary as well. We forget about that when we talk about it.
Isn't it higher in veterinary than
higher
farming?
in veterinary than farming, than doctors, because actually the training is the same. Yeah. The training is the same amount of time nearly. Yeah. The pay is less. The hours can be even worse if you're on call. And I think being, juggling a household and a family and working for, we work for ourselves. So I, have a bit more of a sway in where I am. But she was working for a business. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, I think people are more affected. So I don't have that village in terms of like, and I think not parenting, I think parenting without your mum is probably the hardest thing you'll do. Like I always say that. Like I'm very, you know, I've got friends who've also lost parents, and it is actually really challenging because it's one of those things that you want to pick up the phone, and even your best friend, you wouldn't, you know, it's like, is this normal or is this like a and my dad is amazing, and a lot of people think my dad lives with us because he often pops up on my online with, you know, like in video, because people find him hilarious. He is hilarious, but he has had to deal with a lot. He had retired by that point, but he's from a generation where we don't still talk about that. And it's still, I mean, it has, and our home then became the centre of, when it happened, came the new centre of the family. Like my granny was still alive. You know, it was very much, you know, my brother is 2 years younger than me. We became, you know, where people went, and my dad now less so, but for a long time he used to come up most weeks for a few days. Now he doesn't. He's actually probably comes up once a month, maybe even less. And I probably have to ask him to come up. He's getting old. You know, he'll be 70 this year, so it's not as. It's not. You know, he's tired. You know, the problem is Rob, is that he looks like he's like 50. But he's going to be 70. So he's very fit and able, and he walks his dog 3 times a day. But actually, his energy levels are not, you know, are not there. So he doesn't come as much. And my brother, you know, they haven't got children. He lives his own life. He's very good. If I asked him, he would come. But I don't have that core, you know, group. And I suppose I moved away at the time when I had a really good friendship group. I've still got some great friends who I went to school with, etc. But we're all at very different stages in lives. You know, a lot of my friends are just having children now.
Right.
Whereas I've, you know, my best friend in London's just had her second. And we're just in different stages in life. So it is challenging. You know, it's not a boo-hoo Soph thing, but it's a challenge. You know, it is a challenge.
There's a lot there, isn't there? And I think it is that. You're talking about it being something that we need to do. We're doing more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's become way more, you know, open.
Yeah. And I do think the isolation thing is a big thing as well. I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think there's almost this kind of 2 different sides to it as well, because I think sometimes the solutions for men and women are sort of the same solutions are given. I'm not sure that's always...
No, I think you're right.
Always the case. And I think, you know, lost my cousin who farmed a mile away from here, same thing. And he was a firefighter and came back to the family farm, and it was difficult because you know it's
very different career, isn't
different,
it?
and you're surrounded by this sort of brotherhood of laughing and, you know, people bringing you up and like arm round, and then suddenly you're on your own on the farm. Yeah. And you can't help but think that's got to be part of it as well.
Absolutely.
And those, I don't know, but there's no easy answers, is there? But
no, I think the more we can understand ourselves, the easier it is. I think you have to be very self-aware nowadays. On, you know, in terms of how you feel and asking for help when you need it, in terms of, you know, professionally or, you know, and not seeing it as a negative. You know, some of the best people I know have had some sort of hardship. I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't have had that trauma in my life at that point, and 2 points of having children young and of losing my mum, because you have to take the grief and the strength to get through that period. It teaches you more than you'll ever learn in any other situation. Your grief is like you either, you know, sink or swim, I think, and it stays with you forever. But it's, you know, you never get over it. You know, someone said to me, "Oh, do you think you'll ever get over it?" No, you just learn to live with it and use it in a way. You. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very difficult. And in terms of obviously just keeping an eye on it, and like you say, knowing yourself, but then watching out for signs, and you'd have triggers that you'd be like, hang on. Yeah. Yeah. I need to
I need to
chill,
slow down here. I need to ask for some help. I think, and also learning that it's like, it can be periods, it's okay to have periods when you're just like, oh God, this is a bit much.
Yeah.
And also like what helps, like you have to learn what toolkits work for you. Like if that is a day reset away, not seeing that as a negative.
Yeah.
I'm way better at having holidays or time out, in terms of, I don't have long, like week long, I suppose, holidays, but if I have like a break in work, or I could get away for 3 days, people won't even know I've gone, and I'll just go, with maybe one child, 2 children, we do whatever, whoever wants to go, we just do last minute, away, because that's just how it fits in. But I prioritize probably that more as I've got older.
Yes.
Because I find if I'm at home, I can't relax.
No, get away
There's
from
always something going on. The house is near the parlour, you can hear, there's always, and because I am a workaholic, and I'm very self-confessed workaholic, I find it very difficult to like fully switch off if I'm in the house. Because I'm always, and I think any business owner would be lying if they said that there's not something in their brain that is always thinking about something to do with their business, because that's what makes us start, that side of our brain.
Absolutely.
There's always something going on.
I do wonder as well, like, as if, maybe it's not, I'm not saying it was always better in the past, but when you went to an office, even if it was your business, and you came home,
it turned off.
Like internet.
Yeah.
There wasn't,
nothing was going to happen.
The phone line for the business was at the business.
Yeah.
And so there isn't that now, because you've got your laptop, the phone.
Yeah.
Like, you're just getting pings and reminds and all
the time. We're so connected. We're so connected, but we've never been at a point where we're so less connected, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
It's almost like the technology's got between us.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Absolutely. And I think that's why, that's why it's great that I feel lucky that I get to do these other things, because especially when they're in person.
Yeah.
Because you get, you get the conversation.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything, I don't want to be critical of the farming sector, but do you think there's anything culturally there that's, because I think there's I do look at some of that stuff.
That we celebrate hard work.
I think there's that.
Yeah.
The fact then there isn't an escape really.
Yeah.
And particularly for people who are stuck on farm.
Yeah.
If things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And it's piling up.
Yeah.
Then I think there's that. I don't know if this. I've got to be careful not to piss all the internet off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think there's something like, I remember hearing people down the pub, or the way people talk about other farmers. There's a culture a little bit like, have you seen Jim's fucking tram lines?
Yeah.
What a twat.
We're very good at looking over the hedge.
Over the hedge.
Yeah.
And people get anxious about social judgment. And so not only is there the hard work thing, but then if things haven't gone wrong, like I think for guys particularly, and I'm sure all round, but like the fear of that judgment it weighs quite heavy on people.
We were very lucky to learn from someone, on the job. It started out he'd come once a week, and then he'd come every 2 weeks, and then he'd come down once a month, and then it was just as we progressed through our career.
Sounds like a really useful.
Yeah, it's really
that experience.
It was super useful. There were obviously some times where we bumped heads just from different direction. We wanted to grow the business. Obviously, for Mike, he was growing his own business as well. So anything he grew in our business was only 50% his.
Yeah.
So that was always, that was at the end became more of a challenge, but we were really lucky, and there's no way we'd be where we are today without having had a really good mentor and business partner. So, and he's still, we still ring him for advice now. So very lucky. And his son has now really taken on the business. And that's one of the reasons that we bought him out, I think, was that we'd only really dealt with Mike, and he was sort of stepping back a bit. Yeah. And Will, the son, his son, he's a little bit younger than us, so was sort of learning in their business. Yeah. So it just it made sense. One of us was always going to buy each other out at the end of the 10 years. So.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? And I think certainly from my point of view, we had a contract farming agreement, and one of the things I did deliberately on that is it's different in beef, I think, where quite often it'll be favour sort of 70 or 60-40 in the favour of the contractor. Yeah. But I had it 50-50 just so that every decision I made, whether it's to make more money or save money, both me and the landlord would have the same benefit.
Yeah.
To avoid this thing, well, of course you'd do that because
Yeah.
you're going to make a bit more than
Friction.
me on this. Or yeah.
And what happened with that? That just closed that and they'd started themselves or?
Yeah, well, that ran for the 5-year contract period. And then we basically got to the end of that contract period and we had an offer to continue. And relationships were all great. But to be honest, Lizzie was pregnant. And it was like, we've got a 500-acre farm here, then 20 minutes this way, there's another 180, and then there's so much. It was just too much going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let's focus on things that are a bit more
that
important.
You've got 100%
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
And we cleared a load of debt through that. And that gave us an opportunity to maybe not run so hard to pay stuff off. So so I think that needed to get that, but getting the debt away, absolutely, just gives you a few more options and to think about sort of
more flex.
Balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 kids.
Yeah.
Are they keen?
So I think so. Harry, for a while, I was like, well, I'm not sure, my eldest, and now he can actually do things that are helpful. Has become more interested.
Yeah.
He's very good with machinery, can drive a tractor, but he's also quite calm and like he would be great with the cows. I think at that age, at 17, you're more interested in the machinery. I think it comes later, the cows, when you realise they're what's paying for the machinery.
Yeah.
But I think he wants to go to uni. He wants to go to, at the moment, Reading or Newcastle to do agribusiness. So, he's choosing unis that he could transfer onto another course if it wasn't for him, or he'll be around other people, so not the Harper or the Cirencester, mainly because he's not 100% sure. But for me...
Strong agric communities at Newcastle and Reading.
Yeah, exactly. So you still have that sort of like-minded, but also a bit more exposed. And he's got a lot of friends who are farmers in terms of, at his schools, quite a lot of agricultural kids in his year group. But I think for him, we've said, don't really want you to come home before 25 because you need to, Tom and I are quite young still, and I want him to come home and be able to have some sort of impression. And also, I think he needs to go and work for someone else first. Like, I really think he needs to go and sort of have a bad boss or, go travel. We never did any of that. I didn't really fully travel until I did Nuffield. I did a little bit here and there, like wild trips, actually even when I was pregnant, I did some like pretty crazy trips, but I didn't see the world properly until I was like 33. Yeah. So I think that the opportunity to like live a little bit more before the responsibility, we're definitely encouraging.
While you can, before they close the world down.
Yeah, I think Evie, the middle one, is a very good cook. She's 14, she's very able. She's got, when people actually really have good taste palette, like I think that she understands food and ingredients and stuff. Cool. So I wonder whether she will do something within the business. We have bought stuff to make something.
Thinking like cheeses or...
So we bought something that was for sale a while ago. We haven't set it up or anything yet, but it's there in case, it's too good an opportunity to not. So I don't know. Cecily loves the animals. Like, she's a real animal girl. Yeah. So whether that's an age thing or whether she wants to. Yeah. I want a business that can accommodate them if they want to.
Yeah, that's a good thing, isn't it?
But no pressure to, because it's you have to really want to do it. Yeah, it's a great career, but you have to really want to do it.
Yeah, I find with my kids it's really interesting with Tom, similar age to Harry, I think, and he's actually, like you say, becoming useful. But then also, he said the other day, it's kind of been a chore to do farm stuff. And he wants to be playing rugby and playing around with his mates. But he's now he's had another job, and he's like, he wants to go to college, but off to uni. But he's like, this is quite a nice place to work, isn't it?
Yeah, and live.
And it's quite varied work as well. You're not just doing the same thing all the time, are you? And
absolutely.
I think there is that reality. Go and work in a factory for a bit, or office block, and see. Yeah. Yeah.
And Harry's quite dyslexic, so actually for him, like, he's extremely bright business-wise. He's been trading shares for probably the last year. Like, he understands that side of things. But he's left-handed, which isn't a problem at all, but his writing isn't very legible. And his brain just works, numbers and stuff he's great with, but I think he would actually really benefit from working within ag. It's probably got very much space for him.
Yeah,
so,
all the best people are left-handed. You just look at my handwriting.
My dad is left-handed as well. My brother too is both ambidextrous. So nothing wrong with a lefty.
Cool. So last thing then, your advice, you as a new first generation new entrant, what would be your main pieces of advice for someone starting out in farming generally, but also dairy?
I think, can I say a couple of things?
Yeah.
So I think get started, like we touched on at the beginning, like just get some stock. I think teaches you how to look after them, shows you're really keen, you've got skin in the game, connections, go to events, tell everyone what you want to do, because you never know when the first opportunity, I didn't know that it was going to be with Mike. We knew when he walked his dog on a Sunday, we purposely bumped into him and we created this field business. We thought about it a lot, but to just keep building those connections and keep asking. I think also start saving from a young age, because dairy particularly is quite a capital intensive thing to get into. Build relationships with people like bank managers, accountants before you need them is really important. But just also go and get a mentor. So probably I've had some really good mentors in my life, and there's lots of people that want to give back. So find someone that is doing what you want to do in the future and ask them if they will mentor you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Sophie. Really good chat. Loads of absolute golden nuggets of information in there as well. So thank you very much for listening. This has been Call to the Land. Please follow on all the socials. Subscribe. If you can leave a comment on Spotify, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, that really helps us. Go over to YouTube. As I said, we've just started posting on there as well. So have a look. That really helps us. Any questions you've got, put in the comments. About anything in today's episode or in any others, and I'll get into the comments and I'll reply with anything you need. Thank you very much for listening.